Hold on, Chippy. All right, here we go, everybody. My goodness, what a Wednesday this has already been. Yes. All right, do you want to come up and say hello? Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, there's that. Hi there, Janet Dwyer. Yes. Let me see if I can bring him up. All right, folks, we're going to be live in just 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Do you want to just sit there? Do you want to just sit there? Okay. I'm not talking to the face on the screen that I'm going to talk about. No, this is who I'm talking about. Let me see if I can get him. There we go. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. And it's Chip. Yep. There he is. It's Kate's cat. Can you wave to everybody? Yep. It is perfect. Yes. It's Kate's cat we're babysitting. Or cat sitting, I should say. Little Chip. Yep. One more time. There we go. All right. You get back down over there. I got to get to work. My goodness. Yes. We'll send that. Kate will like that. Excuse me. He's visiting. We took him because she was on assignment in West Africa. So, all right. Yes. Hola, little guy. That's right, Henry B. All right, folks. We're going to start at he's a city cat. So, percent. We are going to, we're going to, hi there, Chip. I like that. Everybody write hi, Chip, and then Kate can see them in the comments. Folks, I want to start off. My goodness, I want to apologize. Yes, it is the chosen one. I want to apologize to Pete and Roger and everyone. We had an audio problem with the Brian Reed. Yep. Brian Reed. Brian Walshe. The audio of the Brian Walshe trial. I apologize. Yes. My goodness. It was brutal. So, oh my God. I apologize, folks. I'm going to break it down a little bit. Yes, everybody. Henry B. put Chip in the comment, and I'll put it on the screen, and then I'll show it to Kate later. Oh, there's Brenda. Yes. All right, folks. Right now, as we speak, we are live on AM 1380 and 99.9 FM, and the sound should be fine now. I apologize. My goodness, folks. I mean, we have function, obviously, clearly, and that will not happen again. But I want to apologize to Pete and Roger and everyone that had to suffer through, because it was good. It was good on audio. I'm telling you, we had a technical malfunction. Everything should be fine now. Chip checked it. I think Chip was playing with one of the wires, and it may have unplugged the proper microphone, but we should be good to go now. Yes. Kate was making chocolate chip cookies, and she just got him and then thus named him Chip. So, all right, we're going to try to regroup here, get our footing back under us. It was quite a morning. I had a busy morning, and then, then we're dealing with my goodness, I was mortified. But anyhow, folks, listen, we we are back. It's, you know what that is like? That is, it'd be like if Drake May went back to catch the snap and he fumbled it, and then the other team picked up the ball, or he threw a pick six, and then you got to just trot on the field and then keep going. So again, apologies to Pete and Roger and everyone that was trying to suffer through that. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Stop in and see them. They have everything you need for Christmas, and their display really looks just terrific. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. This Christmas, you know, I see more and more people are, in fact, getting all the decorations out, and they have the Christmas season is so underway. Everything you need, Fraser fir trees, potted live trees, custom handmade wreaths, 10 to 60-inch size. They have mistletoe and hanging baskets, and they have cut greens and decorative pots and Christmas crafts, and gift certificates are available. Folks, they're open 7 days a week. Their next day off will, in fact, be Christmas Day. Stop in and see them. They have a terrific Facebook page. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Well, the rain seemingly has gone. Now, we've had a lot of traffic on our website, which is depetro.com, and we are in the process of upgrading it. It will be upgraded. Not everything happens overnight. Sometimes there's so much demand, excuse me, on the website, but we break a lot of stories and we have unique content. And the depetro.com, of which I'm so proud of, started in 1999. I was the first local media personality to have their own website. Many people still don't have their own website, but it also has links to all of our social media, whether it's Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or X. Check it out, depetro.com. Brought to you by the Cohasset Inn, 226 Cohasset Avenue, West Warwick. Lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge, and now the coffee at Cohasset. It just keeps getting better and better. Now remember, the Cohasset Inn, they can handle large size groups. So I was there last Saturday. We had a nice luncheon, and the front room had 40 people, and then one of their rooms to the side had 50 people, and then the room that was right in front of us had, I think it was 75. I mean, and plus there's all of us just dining. So what I like about the Cohasset, and I talk about it, is you can spread everything out. And I don't like hearing strangers chew their food. I don't like anyone at the table that I can hear them chewing their food, but certainly not a stranger. But the Cohasset Inn, delicious menu. They're open 7 days a week. Stop it and see them. It's the Cohasset Inn. You know, Chip actually has his own Instagram page, Chip in the City. You can find it on Instagram. I may post that a little bit later. Now, I want to just touch on. Now, there's several stories in the news that we're going to talk about, such as the Brian Walshe trial. And I am personally very happy for the members of the Massachusetts State Police that had to put up with a lot of nonsense and still do. It's all corrupt. Everybody's corrupt. Everybody's in on it. Blah, blah, blah. But what an investigation they have done with Brian Walshe. And I'm going to touch on that. But I want to also touch on some things that these aren't complaints. I'm not venting. I regard it more as I'm kind of explaining things. But so we've obviously, I've done a lot, probably more than anyone on this story. And I want to explain something. So this individual, Juan Arquilla, he was arrested a week ago, actually either 1 week ago or a week ago tomorrow. But he was involved with running the 23-year-old girl off of 295, Casey. He was arrested for that. The police had to go and find him. It happened at about 3:30 in the afternoon. It was on 295 Cranston, and I don't know exactly what happened, but the young woman who was driving, whose father is a captain with the Rhode Island State Police, and her brother's also a trooper. So whatever happened on the road, by all accounts, according to the police, he forced her off the road. She went under the median and crashed into a tree and lost her life. And this is so important. He didn't stop. The police had to locate him later and then take him into custody, and he was charged, death resulting for his driving. So I don't know him, but I notice, and I'm not upset about it, but I notice comments such as, in referring to me of, by the way, he then was granted bail by the judge. All the judge said to him was, don't drive. You can't drive right now. But he goes to court at the end of February. So this 23-year-old, her life is lost. So let me just, and maybe we have a lot of new people or things like that, but I saw a comment where someone said, talking about me, the chosen one, he's obsessed with the story. Obsessed with the story. It just happened. Number one. Number two, I get it. I get how, see, that's someone that their interpretation of the news should be the way they do it on like Channel 10 or Channel 12. They do one story, one time, and then it's out the door. We don't operate that way. Okay? A life was lost. I'm going to start to, if you wouldn't believe the screenshots that I'm getting from people, leave him alone. Bro's obsessed with the story. Listen, it's wrong. Last Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, that shouldn't have happened. This guy's 41, 43. He's in the transportation business, by the way. Let me also be very clear. Some of the comments, what happened, innocent until proven guilty? He is innocent. He's not in jail. I didn't realize that. Terrible, Janet. Terrible. But this notion of, now I want to be very clear, it doesn't impact me, but this notion of, I don't know what to make of it. That's it. Like, you do one quick 60-minute story, and then you just, that's like enough. You move on. Wrong. No, there need to be changes. There's various things that happen. And I don't go by that. No. And, it also happened on Friday that he got out. People are upset I posted another one of his TikTok videos. Why are they upset with me? Maybe I need to re-explain the story. I didn't run her off the road. He did. Do you get that? Well, you're rough on the poor man. She's no longer alive. And he was arrested for it. Dude's obsessed with the... What do you mean obsessed? I think it is a story. I think it's a worthwhile story. I don't hear any elected official talk about it. I don't. Now, this notion of, these people, do you think the family wants to look at his face? Listen, as I have explained, I'm not doing the content that we put out is not geared for the family. It's for the general public. Now, Central Falls, someone sent me a message. Has been an arrest? No, there hasn't been an arrest. The mayor's not talking about it, and no one's talking about it. I don't know what to tell you. Has there been an arrest? I think that I think it's, but there's that mentality. And they come after the ultimate of like go after the messenger, which I don't understand. It's foreign to me. All right, I want to talk about it, and I'm going to tell you the situation that the state is in. And a lot of the commentary, folks, I want to be very clear. I feel very comfortable with the facts. I feel very comfortable with my interpretation of the facts. And I am sharing some news and my opinion of the news that we're getting. And not that I monitor everybody else, because I don't have the time for it. But I assure you a lot of things I'm going to share with you between now and 2 o'clock, you're not hearing from anyone else. I want to remind you, heating or cooling. Oh, here we go. Heating or cooling. All right. Propane Plus. Log on at propaneplus.com. The Johnson family, they're fantastic. See what that says? Residential or commercial, heating or cooling. You can depend on Propane Plus. And online at propaneplus.com, you just type in your zip code, heating, cooling, residential, commercial. Propane Plus is the energy that we need. Now, it was reported yesterday, and admittedly, I find it embarrassing. I also find that no one's really going under the surface. And what's the story that I'm talking about? That the Trump administration is suing Rhode Island because our Secretary of State won't let them go through our voter rolls. And I want to be very clear about this, as a matter of fact. I've met Secretary of State Greg Amore, and I also interviewed him. And we kind of, he's got a good way about him. Nice enough guy. Admittedly, 2 years ago, he didn't have to, reached out to me when I had cancer surgery. That was very thoughtful. I was very grateful. I could just say, oh, he's a politician and blah, blah. No. There wasn't lost on me. But I will also say this. I don't think it's his call. He's the front guy for this. But I want you to think about this for a moment. What would be the local reaction? Let's make the governor and the Secretary of State in Rhode Island Republicans. And let's make the president Kamala Harris. What would be the reaction then? Kamala Harris, the president of the United States, President Harris, is suing the Rhode Island Republican governor and Secretary of State because they won't grant access to the voter rolls. What do you think the reaction would be? They'd be, you'd see camera crews outside the State House and tracking them and the whole thing. No, I don't think it's his call. Because what I still don't hear are people going under the surface about our elections. And unless changes are made, as they say in AA, nothing changes if nothing changes. Nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change if we don't change the way we handle our elections. And what we do know, the mechanism, how, and I think our election system, I think it is broken. I think, I've heard he was a good teacher. Again, and I don't begrudge him in any way. So the element of, to me, obviously that looks suspicious. Rhode Island doesn't want to share their voter rolls with the federal government. I mean, is there anyone that makes sense? Is there anyone that thinks, yeah, I can see that? I think most people would say, obviously, there's something there. But I am telling you, if there was ever a state that we should move into paper ballots. We should. I don't hear enough of an outcry about these campaign ballots. Now, I've talked about it with Justin Katz. If you were listening to the radio last hour, we talked about it with Dan McGowan. I don't accept, and this is so important for you to know, I don't accept the notion that we're running right now, which is these were policies implemented during COVID. In our Rhode Island, the way we conduct elections right now, I don't hear any elected Republican that should have been all over the news. And I will invite Chairman Joe Powers on as I think of it. And he did issue a statement on it, so I want to give him credit for that. But I don't hear enough in our local media that we are an outlier the way we do elections. They changed them during COVID. Connecticut changed back. Mass changed back. Rhode Island stayed the wild, wild west. How? I don't believe we have legitimate elections. I believe there's certain individuals that feel they have mastered how to manipulate our election process. And how broken is it that the sitting governor, who would get 11% in a Democrat primary, behind the House Speaker, who's not even running, think about that, a sitting governor, 72% disapproval rating, would get 11% of the vote in a Democrat primary. But he's running for re-election. And I have to admit, I'm even shocked when I hear people say, I don't know why, like it's so obvious to me. And yet whenever I'm having these discussions with various individuals, they discard what happened in 2022. And folks, what's the old adage? Those who ignore history are condemned to repeat it. As they say, I'm told in AA, I've never been to an AA meeting. I really don't even drink anymore, just because then I don't sleep well after I drink. But, the whole thing, nothing changes if nothing changes. The old adage, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Why do they think Governor McKee is running for re-election? Is because he believes he can manipulate. We have to also stop calling them mail ballots. They're campaign ballots. They don't even go through the mail. They're put in drop boxes. And as I have said repeatedly, despite all of Aaron Gukian running for, he beat Matos day of voting, but lost because of the campaign ballots. Let's take the Republicans out of the mix. September of 2022, Helena Folks beat Governor Dan McKee day of voting at the polls. That's no small feat. But McKee had more mail ballots. So he won the primary by 3,000 votes. And then ran up the score in the general. Alan Fung, the polls had him up 3 to 4 points. The polls closed on election day against Seth Magaziner. Alan Fung, the former mayor of Cranston, 1 day of voting. The polling for that election was really remarkable. Exactly at like 3.5%, 3%. He won. Except, mistakenly, too bad, they hired a stooge to run their mail ballot campaign. Seth Magaziner got 14,000 mail ballots. The Fung campaign had 4,000 mail ballots. Folks, my point is, you can't outgame them. It needs to change. Anyone that says to me, well, we're also going to, Ashley Kayla said that. She hired the mail ballot king, that guy. Then what he does is, I watched him testify in court, and I'm like, this guy, who would seem like he'd be a valet in Vegas, this guy is the mail ballot king, Coutinho and the Sun. They're the ones deciding elections. Like, it's so pathetic. But they don't change it. Now, I believe Greg Amore, Secretary of State, he's mastering the system. He's looking to run for governor in 2030. I get why they don't want to change the system, but it's not a legitimate system. in a perfect world, and because of, like, I like Ken Block, and I've known Ken a while, and I respect Ken Block, but I find he's kind of quiet because he doesn't like President Trump. This, I want to be very clear to you. This has nothing to do with President Trump. This is how Rhode Island runs elections. And to be very clear, let me crystallize it for you. You know, one of the reasons I believe people are so frustrated is the voters wanted Helena Foulkes to win that primary. And you know what? She would have been governor because she would have crushed Ashley Kalus. But she lost because McKee and the unions manipulated the mail ballots. The voters wanted, the Rhode Island elected leaders should have been Helena Foulkes governor, whether people like that or not. I am calling balls and strikes here. I'm being objective. She would have crushed Ashley Kalus. The voters wanted Aaron Gukian to be the lieutenant governor. The state would have been Governor Foulkes, Lieutenant Governor Gukian, would have been like a check, so to speak, on the governorship. And the voters certainly wanted Alan Fung in Congress. So there's something broken and wrong. And what I'm telling you is I don't hear anyone speak up that the system needs to be altered. Now, I want to give credit to independent Representative John Brian of Woonsocket, was a Democrat, now independent. He has promised to introduce legislation to change it. What I don't hear, though, but we will focus on a lot. Number one, Rhode Island does not run their elections the way other states do. We don't even run elections the way Massachusetts and Connecticut do. We've had experts on that talk about. Florida tightened up their voting. Other states have. Folks, it's not that difficult. The fact that the Trump administration has to sue basically the state of Rhode Island to get the voter rolls it's exactly what you would think it would be, which is there are illegals voting. There are people that don't live here. They don't investigate. There's people that vote twice. There's people that are registered under different names. They game the system. Do you know the mail ballots aren't even notarized? These are the most illegitimate elections, rivaling like a third world. And that is the reason. And all you get is pushback from Governor McKee and Secretary of State Amori of, you know, these MAGA and Trump Republicans. It's so insulting. It is. And as I have stated, I believe that should be the message. The General Assembly, 100% should be, we at the very least put us in line with Massachusetts and Connecticut. And many of you know there was a time that, you want to talk about greatness entering the chat. There he is, my friend. He ran. He got a higher percentage than Ashley Kalus did. Pat Cortellessa. Pat Cortellessa gave Nellie Gorbea a real run for the money. Pat Cortellessa is an expert on our voting system. And I did run into Pam, who works with Pat. But we need to rein this in. There was a time when if you wanted to, you had to get it notarized. I mean, I remember years ago, I was going to be traveling and I had to go to a notary and get my ballot. And they got, now there's no trail at all. There's no paper trail. Folks, that is, we have hit a new low that, and I find it embarrassing that the McKee, and I'm going to call it the McKee administration, because I know people are focusing on Secretary of State Greg Amori, but I believe whether it's Governor McKee or the union leaders, that they would say to Amori, if you hand over those voter rolls, your future, you are over. You know, several years ago, I think it was 2020. I don't remember now. I'll have to go back and check. I actually went to the Board of Elections and I said, I want to see the voter rolls. And I started laughing when I was there. Number one, they knew I was going to be coming. It's right on Corliss Street near the Slater Center dispensary and also near the main post office. And they knew I was coming, and they set me up in a cubicle. And I started laughing because it's impossible to go through. And I remember the name I was looking for was Hector Gomez. Good luck, because there's 1,000 people named Hector Gomez. And this was at the time when Nellie Gorbea was hiding the birthdays because I uncovered, those of you who remember this, I went and then I realized, okay, so this is a fool's errand. You can't, there's nowhere to go. You know, there's, according to the voter rolls at the time, there were 100 voters. And it wasn't even Hector Gomez. It was Hector Miguel Santiago Gomez. And what was so remarkable about that name was they were all born in Rhode Island, apparently, but they were all born on July 3rd in 1985. And I remember at the time saying, can you imagine the news story that would have been? Can you imagine Channel 10, Channel 12 doing the stand up outside women and infants, saying a remarkable day as 100 babies born today, all boys, and the parents have named all of the children Hector Gomez. The odds are beyond 1 billion to 1. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, if that happened, that would be in the news. If whatever, tomorrow, December 4th, there's 3 babies born of women and infants, and they're all boys, and the parents all name them, Harry Moo. No, that's why it was impossible. So I saw it firsthand. I also realized, like, okay, so this was a waste of time because can't make copies of anything. You can't, any of that nonsense. It was just ridiculous. I want to remind you, by the way, the clock is ticking. I am telling you, get your garage epoxied. Call Corey today. Free estimate. Quality asphalt seal coating. 401-283-9815. 401-283-9815. Get your garage epoxy before winter sets in. They do the epoxy garages and patios, decorative concrete flooring. They do it all. Quality asphalt seal coating. 401-283-9815. Pat Cortellessa. Pat Cortellessa had, that's when we dubbed her Nervous Nellie. Nervous Nellie. Yep. Pat, he absolutely, he came closer. He did. Why would it be asking too much that you get the ballot notarized? The answer is it would not. I mean, it is ridiculous. But the thing to watch for is, and Justin knows this as well, there was that lady that ran in the I am going to talk about the Brian Walshe case. I'm going to talk about the Brian Walshe case. Let me just put a period on this. Listen, this is insanity. What like, they're not going to tell me of, I've listened to this for too long. Nellie Gorbea said, oh, people are going to steal people's identity if we allow the birthdays, even though all these other states allow birthdays. And they had no evidence that anyone's personal information was ever stolen from a voter roll. So there's reasons why they don't want the Trump administration to go through our voter rolls. And let me also be very clear. The Trump administration, this is all computerized. There was a time that we were calling for let Ken Block go through the voter rolls. Ken Block, he knew and was hired by states to go through fraud with SNAP benefits. I believe Rhode Island should have some mechanism of you have to, re-register to vote, something like that. Because if you can collect as many, and I hesitate to call them mail ballots because people don't, that's really not what they are. all around the state, they put in ballot boxes. The reason they did that, because that way, if you filled out a fraudulent ballot, in the past, at the very least, they'd get you on mail fraud. But if you drop it in the drop box, that's taken away. So they did it to protect themselves. But let's talk about our system was never designed that one person could hand in 500 ballots, 1,000 ballots. Watch the Morales campaign in Providence. There was that lady that, so Cicilline resigned, and then they had the special election to replace him, which Gabe Amo won. I think that was 23, right? And then that lady, I forget her name, Matos came in 5th. That was the whole Matos signature scandal. But you had Aaron Ruggenberg, and there was one woman, I'll have to go back through the numbers. I forget her name. She lives in Providence. I'd never heard of her before, but that doesn't mean anything. But she came in 1st or 2nd in mail ballots. How is that possible? In regular voting, you finish 5th. And then her excuse was, well, a lot of my voters prefer to vote by mail. I mean, is there anyone that actually believes that? A lot of my voters prefer to vote by mail. Really? No. In the last general election cycle, 2022, all these mail ballots in CD2, as I've talked about, they were going through them. And just, I'll cut to the chase. They won't let me go through them. I still believe Alan Funk should have contested that election, but you had thousands of ballots, and the only races they voted for were Seth Magaziner, Governor McKee, and Sabina Matos. That's it. They ignored all the other races and all the other, bond questions. They've only voted for 3 races on the ballot. Why would they do that? Why would that number of people, that's the only ones they're voting for? It's as if someone was given instructions to make sure that those individuals got votes. Why is that? We know why that is. I mean, I'm asking questions that I know the answers to. Pat drew more attention to that. I remember standing on stage at the hotel, and I kicked off the Pat Cortellessa campaign with Tony Freitas, rest in peace. And he did a great job. But folks, my point is, all of this talk about who should run and you need money and blah, 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 none of this matters if we don't have legitimate elections. Now, I do want to talk about, the Brian Walshe case. But first, I want to remind you, I'll tell you, they do such a fantastic job. I get great feedback regarding Watson Materials. I talk about that they are, in fact, they carry the largest selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island. Clearly, they do. Watson Materials. Give them a call today. You can request a quote, 401-885-0600. And make the most of your outdoor space. They have landscape lighting, pavers. Call Sean at Watson Materials, 401-885-0600. Retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone. Watson Materials, 401-885-0600. Now, as many of you know, or I talk about, I like to live in reality. I like to deal in reality. I'm not going to get into fights. Dan McGowan talked about that Ashley Kalis is going after Aaron Kukian and doesn't have enough money and blah, blah, blah. Listen, he's running. One thing I know, when you want to seek office, you have to be the one to want to do it. You can't be talked into it. The people that, let me rephrase that. The people that are successful, you have to, many times it's who wants it more. And you have to want it more than the other person. I don't talk about her a lot. Helena Folks ran a very good campaign. It was her first campaign. Started late, learned as she went along. Whether you like her or not, or her principles, or the fact that she was friendly with Nancy Pelosi, or still is, she has had a track record of success. She ran CVS. She was the CEO of CVS. You don't get there by accident. You don't get there by someone covering for you. She really wanted it. And she seems to really want it this time. So, and Governor McGreed, either he's being forced to run. I know people are questioning, why is he running? He hasn't lost yet. He ran for lieutenant governor in a primary in 2014 and won, and then he won the general. And then in 18, he had a very close primary against Ruggenberg. He won by 1,500 votes. And then he won the general, 4-0. And then, in 2022, Governor McKee, he won that primary, 5-0. And then he won the general, 6-0. 6-0. But the people that think he's going to step aside, why would he step aside? He's got Pawtucket locked down with Mayor Grabian. He's got East Providence locked down with De Silva. I think he's friendly with the mayor of Central Falls. He, has a lot of friends, constituents, the northern part of the state. He's not going anywhere. I don't know. For what? He hasn't lost. Why would he walk away from the table? He's not going anywhere. But as far as I know Blake, some of the names tossed out. I know Blake. I'm friendly with Blake. I had dinner with him on Block Island. He doesn't want to run. Someone saying, well, Jessica De La Cruz, there are people that like her, Senate Minority Leader. She has run and won. Now, she did pull out of the CD2 race rather quickly, but she's not running for governor. You go into a restaurant, you got to order what's on the menu. Ken Block has run for governor. He ran and started the moderate party, and then he ran again. Lost in the primary to Alan Fung. He doesn't want to run. I'll tell you who wants to run. Aaron Gukian's running. And he ran a very credible, no one knew who he was. That was not an easy time to get attention. He ran for lieutenant governor. I'm not going to keep going on and on about it, but he won Warwick. He won day of voting. That is not easy. And that was a statewide campaign. So all this business of this one should run or that one should run. I've interviewed people, and when they come in, I can tell they're not really gung-ho. And then I've interviewed people that you're like, now this is someone who's pretty serious. The first time I interviewed General Treasurer Armando, I am just telling you, there was, that was tiger blood. There was a killer instinct. I would run someone down in the road to win this election. You could just poised, confident, really committed. Forget, I'm just talking about, I've also interviewed people that seem to be kind of going through the motions. That's what I'm trying to say. So now I do want to touch on the Walshe campaign. The Walshe trial, the Brian Walshe trial, because if we can step away from the fact that it's so horrific, and it's not every day that you see this type of real certified maniac, lunatic sitting in a courtroom. This guy is pathological. Massachusetts doesn't have the death penalty. This is a case that would qualify for the death penalty. But I want to remind you about Kids Club on the Pike. I get such good feedback from people that love Kids Club on the Pike. Kids Club on the Pike. Give them a call, because now they also have a Warwick location now. They have a little bit of a different name. But Kids Club on the Pike, Kristen, they do such a fantastic job. Now, it is true. It's perfect for, a teen party. If you want to have a child Christmas party or a birthday party, Kids Club on the Pike is designed for it. I meant to mention this, by the way. I will post on it. A friend of mine, someone I know, she brought her kids. She's an attorney. She brought her children to Dave & Buster's over the weekend. And someone OD'd at Dave & Buster's. Like 5 and 6-year-old kids looking like, hey, Daddy, why is that man, somebody OD'd at Dave & Buster's. The paramedics come in, the Narcan, and then lug them out. I think it kind of took away from the celebration a little bit. I also know at Dave & Buster's. I received the email talking about a 9-year-old. This woman, her 9-year-old son was robbed in the food court. They were at Dave & Buster's. The kids went out in the hallway. They wanted to, I don't know, popcorn or something. They got robbed in the food court at Providence Place Mall. That's not going to happen at Kids Club of the Pike. Now remember, that is the perfect birthday party venue, but they also do before and after school care, preschool. They provide transportation before and after care, school-age children 5 through 12, half-day program, preschool children, and there's no drag queen doing story hour. Kids Club on the Pike for your children or grandchildren. It's another option. Hey, not everyone can take the time off between Christmas and New Year's. The kids are out of school. Call Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336. So the Brian Walshe trial that's going on, I was going to cover it. It's a big commitment. I'm not. I could still go and take in some of the testimony. But as I mentioned, for those of you that live in Massachusetts, and especially in Norfolk County and up along around there, for so long, it's been going on over 2 years now, 2.5 years. All they've been hearing is the police are corrupt, and the police are corrupt, and all the corruption, and they're framing people, and blah, 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 and going on and on. This Brian Walshe case, and again, for those listening to the radio, I apologize for that. We had a malfunction. Chip the cat unplugged the proper device, so we had a malfunction with the audio. But the recording that I was trying to play was he actually agreed to sit. We have a clear indication of what happened, and that's that beautiful Anna Walshe, and he's a art forgery swindler, and he's going to go to federal prison, and he's got this weird dynamic with the mother. Reminds me of the Kimeses, if you followed that case. Kenneth Kimes and Santi Kimes, those horrible people, killed my neighbor, Irene Silverman, in New York City. But Brian Walshe, the psychopath, I mean, that's what happened. He started Googling how to get divorced, what states to get divorced in, and somehow on New Year's night, after they had a dinner guest and the kids were in bed, and Happy New Year, and the new year was going to bring changes. The wife wanted to live in D.C. I've spoken with a friend of hers that helped her decorate the bedroom of their children. Each kid was, going to have their own bedroom or share rooms, what have you, but decorated them with fire truck, and then the would have for a children's room. We're just thrilled to do it. Glad that she was going to get away from this creep. And then he came up with Plan B. And Plan B, there's Anna. That's Brian Walshe, Anna. I forget who that is. And she came up with Plan B. He did, which was he killed her. He killed her. And he stabbed her. He strangled her. However, we don't know. But the audio of him sitting there, the audacity of this guy, the derangement of this guy, sitting there with Cohasset police, Massachusetts police, and he had an attorney with him, Tracy Minor, who's a very good criminal defense attorney in Boston. And he's trying to go through this whole charade, and you can hear at one point when he's talking to the police, you can hear the kids playing in the background, and they just spring it on him. Do you have any, why is on your iPad, on an iPad in this house, why is there at 4:30 in the morning a Google search of how to dispose of a body, and then all these Google searches? How do you, how long before a body starts to decompose, and how long before it starts to an odor, and what can you do to kill the odor in something? And he dismembered her. And then his defense have put forth this. He came upstairs, walked into the room, and she was suddenly just, that she was had perished. She was suddenly just dead. He didn't call 911. He didn't. No, nothing. Well, I guess I better get rid of her. I mean, it's so ridiculous. But the Google searches, we've been hearing that people saying, well, you can't believe these Google searches and blah, blah, blah. They have this guy, they have him nailed to me, other than he has a little bit of a head start, and they have his vehicle going to some dumpsters. It's so horrible in Abington, and getting all these cleaning supplies. And I mean, basically, he even pled guilty. He dismembered the body, and they're trying to hang it on the fact. That's how arrogant that guy is, that this whole element of no body, no crime. But my point is, the Massachusetts State Police and the Cohasset Police, there was no corruption there. They didn't botch the investigation. Who are these people that root against this guy? I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but there were people rooting like he should get off and they're all corrupt and blah, blah, blah. And it is just, I don't know what to make of it. I actually don't, because it's so troubling to listen to. And he's sitting there so calmly and talking to the police, and you can hear his kids there, and he's interacting with them. And it's just so disgraceful. And again, I want to stress the people that have said, because of all the corruption, because of Sandra Birchmore, because of Karen Reed, Brian Walshe should go free. There is something that you're not all there if you believe that. He should get the death penalty. It's so gruesome. It's so gruesome to commit that. And then what in that mind? I mean, she is such a lovely soul, and she, I think, was from a foreign country, so Serbia, I believe, and then meets him, and the guy's just a complete fraud. It's so disturbing. But the reason I mention that is police have come under fire so much in Massachusetts, and specifically in Norfolk County and the courthouse in Dedham, and they're not botching the case. And anyone that is watching this, I mean, she can't be brought back. But it is frightening to think about what this guy did and how just cruel and gruesome and evil. And to do that, and then your children are going to be orphans, and the mother's so deranged. It's truly, truly disturbing. There she is. There's poor Anna. Folks, this portion of our program actually is brought to you by ServPro. And ServPro of Providence, what a fantastic job they do. As I mentioned, when disaster strikes, you can depend on ServPro of Providence. You can't depend on everyone, but they're fast, they're thorough, they're professional. ServPro of Providence, 401-941-5500. Fire damage, smoke damage, water damage. ServPro of Providence, 401-941-5500. Fast, thorough, professional. You can depend on ServPro of Providence. Call them. When disaster strikes, if you have a fire, you're going to have fire damage and smoke damage. If you have a fire, they have to put out the fire. You're going to have water, and then there could be mold. ServPro of Providence, 401-941-5500, 401-941-5500 for ServPro of Providence. We'll talk about the Walshe case tomorrow with attorney Stephanie Murphy. I was calling her our legal expert, then I realized that someone posted, is she an attorney? Yes, she's an attorney. Look at that. 39 years old, successful job in DC, 3 beautiful boys, and trying to get out of a marriage, and just a complete creep. But as someone, as many of you know, as someone that works with law enforcement, interacts with law enforcement, It's not easy being in law enforcement these days. It's not. And the Cohasset Police and the Massachusetts State Police, the only reason right now that there are some people that are still knocking them is because they're so vested that they have to be corrupt because of the Reed thing. And I think it raises the question, how come, if they're so corrupt, why would they be corrupt with one case but not be corrupt in another case? And the answer is because they wouldn't be. There's the real answer. But boy, they have him, to me. They have him nailed dead to rights. I repeat, excellent investigation with the Walshe, the murder of Anna Walshe and Brian Walshe. Great job by the Massachusetts State Police. Folks, if you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. And again, enjoy this Wednesday.